What's up, everybody? Coach Jesse here. This video is going to be called the UFC before Dana White, where we showcase fighters before Dana White, obviously. Excuse me. I've been watching this Jackson podcast. He's an amazing podcast. He brings on a lot of the older fighters, the OGs, and he gives them a platform to tell their stories. And man, I find it amazing because I've been watching the UFC since '93. Like, I happened to watch the very first UFC, and I never stopped watching after that. So a lot of these guys I've been following for years. And when I watch this podcast, I see and they talk about a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So it's amazing. They open up, and years later, you find out stuff that you really didn't know. So if you haven't followed Jackson on his podcast, go check it out. They do a lot of good work. So just gonna go through this video and just give my opinion and stuff as we go. But yeah, this guy is Big Daddy Goodridge. Fought in the early UFCs. He's had one of the craziest KOs where the guy tried to take him down, and he crucifixed him and just knocked him out with the elbow. So if you look up his name, the video will pop up. So but yeah, let's check it out.
Actual episode of the Jackson podcast, and we are here with one of the greatest co-hosts of all time, the greatest to ever do it, Rampage Jackson.
Jackson's
and a legend, a living legend, one of a kind, a pioneer of the sport. It is an incredible honor to have you here in the house. And Rampage, I'm gonna let you do the honors today of saying who this man is.
Big Daddy Gary Goodridge.
What's up? Nowadays they call me Fat Daddy. Yeah, you know what it is, that when you're a kid, your shirts fit you tight in the arms and loose on the belly. Yeah, now it's tight in the belly and loose on the arms.
What you know about that, Rampage?
Fat Daddy.
What? Hey, I went through my little phase. What are you talking about, bro? The first time we did a podcast back at your apartment, man, you was fat as fuck, man. You like a butterball.
Oh, so we starting off like this.
Well, you
I
started.
got the Build-A-Bear over
Bro,
here
he
telling
started.
me I look like okay, this is how we start
Gary,
off.
who started?
Yeah.
Did he not call me Donkey Kong?
Rampage and Bear, they make a good couple on their podcast, man. They're pretty good together. Rampage is crazy. He's always talking all kinds of crazy shit.
You started first.
I started first.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Gary, you look like a model.
You started.
You look like a model.
But what he said I look like though? But what did he say I look like? Donkey Kong.
Oh, you
Yes.
shaped like an Arizona tea can. You know what I mean? You got like a long,
Why
slender look.
you doing all this stuff with your hand?
Yesterday, that's what you told me.
No, man.
Hey, we got a legend in the house today.
Man.
This is an incredible moment for us.
Rampage does look good. Sorry for keep on stopping it, but yeah, Rampage does look good. You remember some of his his later fights, his last fights, like in Bellator. What did he fight? I think he fought the Emperor, the last Emperor, Fedor. He was getting heavy, like way overweight and out of shape. So good on him. He looks
1
good.
year into the Jackson podcast, and we get to sit down with one of the best to ever
Gary
do it.
Goodridge, man. That's awesome. I'm happy you guys invited me. It's a good time.
Oh man, we couldn't think of anybody better to have on the podcast.
Honestly, I didn't think that we would get you because you live so far away.
There he is.
Yeah.
I've been messaging, I've been bugging, I've been DMing, I've been hitting everybody up. Did I annoy you guys? Did I annoy you and
Not
your
at all.
team? All right,
One
good.
of them, man.
All right, good. I know, I was on it heavy, but they were very kind and very cordial. And I do want to say something. The Jackson podcast loves the history of MMA. They love the pioneers of the sport. And you are the most requested Jackson podcast guest of all time.
Is that right? That's
Yes,
good.
sir.
You want to see that Paul Herrera knockout, huh?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
he's
God.
a friend. He's a friend. So I gotta say.
Are we starting off with this?
Oh, yeah.
The
Hey.
shirt's behind you. The shirt that you try to hide.
Show him the shirt.
Show him the shirt. Show
Coach
him the
Paul,
shirt.
I had nothing to do with this. I had your
Paul
back.
Herrera's a legend, but this shirt's crazy.
Yeah, that's a really nice shirt. I love this.
Hey, you got great merch.
Yes, it is. They made it good. This is for you. And you know what? Paul Herrera is one of his good buddies. Never mind Jackson. Jackson's a good buddy too, man.
Yeah,
That's Rampage Jackson's coach.
Yeah, he's my wrestling coach. He coached me for many of my fights.
So Paul Herrera was one of Jackson's coaches. Paul Herrera was the guy that Big Daddy Goodridge got him in the crucifix, and knocked him out. So yeah,
He's a good guy. We've talked about that before. Yeah.
Just
All right.
tell the truth.
Okay, I tell the truth. He underestimated you. He said back in those days when he took that fight on short notice and he was out drinking and partying and stuff like that, and he just thought that he was going to take you down and out wrestle you.
Yeah, that's all right. He did good. He did actually. What happened in that show is that how my friend, the way how UFC worked, right? You'd have a room like this, and it'd just be set up like this. Things are on the window. You can't come in. Everything you can't come in. Nobody can come in. You sign out times of when you want to work out. So they signed out times. So people were in the room when he was there, not in the room outside. They couldn't see in the window. They'd open up the door and look in, and they chased them out. But every time they opened up and look in, he was doing that move. They should have locked the door. So then they came back to me and said, "We know what he's gonna do."
Wow.
And then before that, what they were doing is they were you down at the beach because it was San Juan, Puerto Rico, and so then you have to give a little spin to what you're doing. Hi, I'm Gary Goodridge, and I'm coming to do this, and so you see him do that. So he did exactly the move on me that I was gonna do. It's called the fireman's carry, and so they saw that, and then they saw him training in the room with that.
He said they were in Puerto Rico. At those times, they would have to fight out of the country because nowhere would really sanction them, and they were outlawed actually on pay-per-view. Like they showed a few of the UFCs, and then a lot of people were saying that it's like human cockfighting and so dangerous, so they cut them off from pay-per-view, and a lot of people wouldn't let them have events in their town, so they would have to do out of the country and stuff. So crazy. Came a long way.
That's what he's doing. He's doing this. So then we stayed up all night working on how to combat that.
Wow.
And that's what we came up with. So all night we practiced on that move that I was working on. So then 4 hours later, after I finished practicing, he's shooting on me the same way that how I was just practicing. So that's why it's like blinking your eyes. Boom. Tickety-boo. Tickety. Had he did anything else but that, it would have been a different fight, much different fight. But because he did the exact same thing that I was just training for all night, it had to happen that way.
Wow. It was meant.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but Tank Abbott talked about it a little bit.
That's crazy. So basically, he was saying for that fight, the guy he was fighting were in the room, and somebody saw him from his camp, and he was training that it was basically a fireman's carry. Shoot in, take him over a fireman's carry. If you know what that is, So they saw him, and he was just training it over and over and over and over. And they told Goodridge, and he's like, all right. So the whole night, Goodridge and his team, whoever was with them, got together, and that's all they trained to defend against the fireman's carry. That's crazy. I didn't know that. So they just trained to specifically defend against the fireman's carry, and he ended up shooting and trying to get the fireman's carry, and got him in the crucifix and did him dirty. That's crazy.
Tank thinks the reason why it was Big John McCarthy, right?
Yeah,
the referee.
yeah.
He thinks the reason why Big John McCarthy didn't stop it sooner is because they was all mad at Paul Herrera and Tank because somebody stole some cigars or something before, and you remember that? And they thought that Paul Herrera did it, or that crew.
Yes.
So it was like a perfect storm for him to get knocked out like that.
I heard about that. So then it took a long time for John to get around and stop it. But I say John told me about this. John said that how he saw Paul take me down. He says, "Yep, they're on down on the floor." Paul took him down, so he got relaxed because he knows Paul's a wrestler. I wasn't, so he relaxed and he walked around to watch it. And as he walked around to watch it, I was hitting him elbows already. So he was scrambled to get in. That's what he said, but I don't know. John, I can trust what he says. He's a good kid.
So if you watch the fight, you could see when Herrera went to get the fireman's carry on Goodridge, Goodridge defended, got him in the crucifix, and there's a shot where he goes around, and Herrera's just like relaxed. He's not really worried about anything. Like he was not expecting to get his face like, you know what I mean, bounced around like that. So he was just real relaxed, and then this fool just did him dirty.
Yeah, all bias aside, that's one of the most brutal knockouts in our sport. Even I gotta be honest and say that even though Paul Herrera is my coach, I love him dearly. I love you too. I've known you longer, but I've trained with him and stuff like that. I know both of you guys, and just the way the sport is. It's just I even feel guilty and bad saying this, but that is one of the most brutal knockouts in our history of this sport.
That's the most famous crucifix of all time in MMA history, by far.
And it was just. It came out of nothing.
It was seamless.
It looked like it was Bruce Lee training this forever.
No.
But like I said, I trained it that night, and he did the exact same thing I was training for.
So you're telling me you never practiced the crucifix till 4 hours before the fight? Incredible.
You know, all these years, like even before I met you fighting with you in Japan, I thought that was your martial art, like whatever, because you fought in that gi, like that black gi, right? I was like, man, that's a badass martial art. What the fuck is that martial art?
Everybody did that too. Yeah. What happened was, there was a bunch of guys that got together to watch the UFC after work one night, and hey, come on over, watch the UFC, telling me all about this stuff. So everybody came over to my 5 to 7 guys came over to my house to watch this. And they saw Hoist Gracie putting in people in arm bars and said, oh, he's breaking his arm. Remember they were saying they were breaking their arms?
Yeah.
Oh, he's breaking their arms and so on. Wow. So they're saying, why didn't you do this, Garrett? I'm like, I don't want no part of that. Like, you must have said that the first time people told you that shit.
Yeah, I don't want to break nobody.
No, I don't want to break nobody's arm. I don't want nobody breaking my arm.
Right.
That's crazy. Hoist Gracie was the winner of the first UFC. They used the UFC's platform to introduce Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the world. They picked Hoist Gracie because he was the smallest, and they wanted to show people that you don't have to be a big man, strong, to use Jiu-Jitsu to defend yourself. And to hear him say, "Oh, we're breaking their arm," so basically, back in the days, everything was like karate, Bruce Lee, kung fu. You know what I mean? Boxing, and it was kickboxing, not too much really Muay Thai around in America too much, but see, they didn't even know what Jiu-Jitsu was. You know what I mean? Hoist Gracie introduced the world to Jiu-Jitsu, and him saying, "Oh, I'm gonna break his arm," he didn't even know it was an armbar. That's crazy.
Because he was taking the big guys down and then breaking their arms. That's what they were saying. So by the time we finished watching that, there were, the flash show. Every now and then they talk about USC paraphernalia. They want this, want that, a shirt, gloves. So they took down the phone number and they started calling. They called around that night. They got old Art Davies. Do you know him? No. He's the guy that started the USC. He invented it all. Yeah. I call him Dad today, but so they gave me the phone when they got a hold of Art Davies. And he said, is this Gary Goodridge? I said, yeah. He said, I saw you arm wrestling a big behemoth, Cleve Dean, and you spoke well. USC's got a place for you. He says, I'll have somebody call you tomorrow. He says, I have somebody to call you tomorrow. Thanks for calling in. So then next day, somebody's calling me, telling me, hey, you're fighting in David and Goliath in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Are you still wanting to fight? I said, yeah, no problem. Then off I went, and a month and a day before.
Was that your first fight?
That was my first fight.
Well,
beside my sisters. I used to fight them all the time.
Yeah, I remember your sister. She was in shape, right?
Yeah. I got 3 others that are just as bad.
Oh, wow.
But you were an arm wrestling champion, right?
Yes, I was an arm wrestler.
At what age did you become an arm wrestling champion?
I think I became an arm wrestling champion probably around 16 years old.
Jesus.
That's the same time when I became arm wrestling champion.
Really?
Of my high school.
Is that right?
You
You
didn't
beat
know that?
everybody. No,
Yeah, I beat everybody. You didn't know that about me?
No, I didn't know.
I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose to you.
Is that right? No, I didn't know that.
He just arm wrestled Paulo Costa on the podcast
Yeah,
2 days ago.
Yeah, he beat me. Yeah.
Costa beat you? You didn't
I
let him
seen
beat
that
you?
picture.
You didn't let him beat you?
No, I didn't let him.
Are you sure?
Man, he had the F3 to
He's
give him
strong.
power.
He's strong.
He's strong.
A lot of people talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people talk about the Paul Herrera. I just want to stay on that for a second because this video is one of the most viral videos of all time. And me and Rampage were watching it. Everybody at the Jackson house was watching it. I know Paul Herrera. I watched him train Jalen Turner before his big fight with Bobby Green. And I was talking to him about that. But then Tank Abbott, like Rampage said, came on the podcast and he said something about Paul Herrera had an amazing high crotch, had amazing wrestling, and that, you know, someone was at a camp as well. There was some other information maybe that you were at a camp or you were training with him and then, you know, someone had asked someone to show someone a move. Was there ever a moment where you trained with Paul Herrera before the fight?
Never seen him before the fight.
No, he said exactly the way where he saw
Didn't
it.
see him walking.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see him walking around anything. I saw him when he got to the ring.
Big weight height advantage, huh? Big weight height discrepancy. That was crazy back then.
Yeah, he was 182 or something like
Oh
that.
my God.
How much were you back then?
240. 240, yeah. 230, 240, yeah.
What did you do to get that big? Were you lifting weights, eating good?
No, I was 225, 230 in high school.
Wow.
Well, really, I was in public school. It came over. I was 210, grade 8, and then weight started coming on. I was just a fat kid.
Yeah, you didn't look fat in
No.
UFC. You looked in shape. You looked like you were ready to kill someone.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
But what martial art was your background back then?
None.
What they said you knew some type of martial art.
Here's what happened.
Wait,
No.
you didn't know? Wait, I'm so confused.
Yeah, I'm confused too.
Here's what happened. Before the UFC, like when they when we called UFC that night, he said, "Okay, you're in. We'll play in the morning. You're in." So then I found, like, what the hell am I going to train? Who? So we found this guy, Fong Tran. He was in the room with us. He says, "Well, come to my dojo and we'll teach you how to fight." While Hoist Gracie's doing a lot of stuff on his back and stuff, we'll train that. So I did like 2 hours of that and then left, and that was it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what I trained.
Well, how nervous were you going to a fight with no rules that you never even trained for before?
Well, you know, at around that time that UFC was showing on TV, there was a lot of tough man competition. So I wanted to fight in them. And then UFC popped up. So I was nervous. Yes, I was very nervous. But you see, that the nerves make you faster.
Yeah.
And I needed that speed. The nervous energy becomes your friend. I needed that friend that night.
Man, my mind is blown because back in those days, it was like the Wild Wild West when it comes to MMA, right? But I didn't know that he had never fought before or even trained.
So basically, this guy was watching the UFC with his friends at his house, and they got the number and started calling because they thought he was big and tough, which all he used to do was like arm wrestling. You know what I mean? And the guy that was running the UFC said he saw him at the arm wrestling tournament and said, "Come on down." And he never trained anything in his life. That's crazy. But I mean, it sounds crazy now, but if you really think about it, all the other guys that he fought never trained before either, because this was new. You know what I mean? A lot of people back in the days, they would be like, "Oh, I'm a 5th degree black belt, Taekwondo or Kung Fu or whatever." People would lie all the time. They would lie because we didn't have YouTube or the internet to fact check. You know what I mean? So I remember a lot of kids back in the day and adult guys, you know what I mean, lying about what they did. So it's crazy to hear that he's never trained before, but going against other guys that really never trained either. So, you know,
I had no idea.
I was under the impression you were a black belt in karate. You had done multiple years of wrestling, and you were a boxer.
Yeah, well, to get in the UFC back then, you had to say you were everything because everybody was everything. Yeah, everybody on the 5 degree this and 6 degree that. They were nothing. They were like me, nothing. They just went in and did this thing.
Did you ever write down like, yeah, I did karate, yeah, I did this?
Yeah.
Oh, you just made it up?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So the resume was fake.
Yeah.
So had you gotten any street fights?
No, never.
Wait.
Never had a street fight. Still haven't.
What in the world is going on? You're telling me the legend Gary Goodridge went and fought in UFC with zero experience, just arm wrestling.
Just arm wrestling.
What made you want to fight then?
Well, because I was always the biggest and strongest guy. Like yourself, it's always the biggest and strongest guy around. Yes. So I was given a badass name to begin with. So with that badass name, everybody thought I could do this and do that. I was afraid of doing this and that. So that's where it came from. And then everybody followed me there and made me do it. I really didn't want to do MMA.
I never knew that.
My mind's blown. I'm with you on this one, Rampage.
And you know what? I was really impressed with you when you went over to K1 and started fighting from Pride. And you was knocking folks out in K1. I was like, damn. I was watching you from afar, like, damn.
Yeah.
So Goodridge he fought in the UFC, and then he went to Pride, and he even went to K1. That's crazy, and he never trained like. To fight in K1, like that's the top of the top, you know what I mean? Guys that 50 fights, 100 fights, world champion, and he went over there and he was just knocking fools.
Here's what happened with that. Before that even started, I had a boxing coach. We used to train in a barn. And he got me just one-on-one, an old guy. He told me, hey, well, I can teach you some boxing. So did I learn anything? No. Then he got me a fight, and I fought like this. I won the Canadian Championship boxing like this. I didn't know how to box. I just was strong. So I knocked the guy out like this. And I only had to beat one guy to be Canadian champion. That's what I had to do.
Just a natural athlete.
I want to make a very clear statement. This goes for everybody out there in our Jackson Podcast Discord. You guys were all wrong because we asked them what they thought your previous experience was. And this goes to show you cannot believe anything on the internet.
What they thought?
The internet said he's a black belt in karate. He had 5 years of boxing. He was a world champion.
Never.
So it's all wrong. The only thing that's true is you were an arm wrestling world champion.
I was an arm wrestler.
So you weren't a super heavyweight amateur boxing champion.
Okay, I got a question then.
Yeah.
Why in the fuck you wearing a black gi? If you ain't got
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, where the fuck that come from?
Here's the other
It's
story.
like Rampage on Halloween, dude. That's crazy.
Why you had to go there?
No, that's what you did last year. Remember you said what?
Quit making,
All right.
don't pick on me in front of my big brother.
I would never pick on you in front of anybody.
Okay, here's what happened. Hoist Gracie was beating people in the gi. What the hell? What's wrong with me? He wore a white gi. Hey, I want a black gi.
The reason why you wore a black gi was because Hoist Gracie was beating everybody in a white gi.
Yeah, he was winning. So I'm like, what the hell? Why can't I do it?
So why'd you cut the sleeves off?
Well, I wore them out first, and then I rolled them up. Well, I didn't know that you had to leave the sleeves to use them. I rolled them up because there were.
That's funny. He wore a gi because he saw Hoist Gracie wear a gi and beating guys. So he figured, shit, I'll wear one too. And he didn't even know what the gi was for. He didn't even know you can use the gi. That's crazy.
I'm sweaty, huh? So I rolled them up.
Like,
but
fuck these sleeves.
Right away, it took you out of this. You couldn't use the gi because you need the gi to hold it and wrap and choke people. Now I know that. Back then, I didn't know that.
Was that your only fight in UFC, that one?
No, I had 3 fights that night. UFC 8, 9, 10, Ultimate 96, and I left UFC in US 19. I fought a guy named Chief, an Indian guy, the Chief, Andre Roberts. That's it. I fought him, and yeah, he ran away.
So UFC 8, you were runner-up to Don Fry in the finals.
Absolutely.
What training did you have by that time for UFC? Still none.
No, because it was the same fight.
It was the same night.
It was the same night.
So you didn't have to do anything during that. You didn't go in the back, try to learn something.
Well, it's too late.
Yeah.
There's a story about that. There's a story about this. Here's the story.
Yeah, because I heard you were training or something.
Let him talk.
All right, go ahead.
The story is when Don Fry's room was right back then. It was like Pride. They had these place that you sat in your room just like this,
like a divider.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was cloth.
Yeah.
Cloth fighter. So I went through the first match quick, like you saw, 8 seconds. And then the second match, Jerry Bolander just drained me out. I think he took me for like 2 minutes or something stupid like that. But I was tired. No, 5 minutes. But I was tired. I drained everything there. After that, I came back to the room, my change room. But Fry's right beside me. His first match was a couple seconds. His next match was a couple of seconds. And his third match was me. So I got back to the room. These guys dragged me. Open the heart. I can't fight no more. That's it. I can't fight no. Tell them to change. So the guys ran out of my room to get Bob Meyerowitz, who owned the UFC back then. So Bob Meyerowitz came to the dressing room and said, Gary, now right now you have won $10,000. If you fight, you can make 50. But if you don't, if you fight and lose, you make 10. So the choice is up to you. If you don't want to fight, you'll gain nothing.
Wow.
So I can count 1 on 1. So yeah, I'm fighting. I don't care how tired I am. I'm jumping in the ring because he's gonna pay me. So I said, okay, guys. I said I'm completely exhausted. Why don't you guys and I have about a minute left in fighting. I can't really do anymore. I really can't because, like I said, they had to drag my shit out. So that's why I took the gi off because I just was tired. It was just so much weight on top of me. The gi was, what is a gi? A couple, not even a pound, but it felt really heavy. So take it off, take all that stuff off. I can't use it. And I just went out there bare bones. But when while he was a wrestler, I had nothing to combat it. So it was just me with your brute strength trying to beat this guy up.
Yeah, that's why we thought it was a different day because you didn't have the gi on.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people, and that's what we were gonna get to, is they think that the fight was actually a separate fight because you didn't have the same outfit on. So people were like, "Oh, he was training," and then they cropped in a different fight.
Yeah.
And then that was a theory for a while, but then that got ruled out. So it's interesting to hear that. So the gi came off because you were.
That's funny to hear. People thought that was a different fight because he came out without the gi top. Obviously, they didn't watch that UFC and saw that he had a fight in a tournament. It was 2-3 fights in one night. The reason why they were able to fight like three fights in one night and have the tournament setting. Shout out to everybody, all the fighters back in the day that used to do it, because they weren't sanctioned. You know what I mean? They weren't sanctioned. They were not really legit. So, and then plus, when you get hurt or you get knocked out, you wouldn't get suspended. So you know what I mean? You could fight right away again. So that's why they used to have like 3-man tournaments back in the day.
Tired.
Yeah.
Not because they were doing separate fights.
I was tired and it was hot, and it was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, so it was hot. Of course it's January, but it was still hot as hell.
That's crazy.
February.
Well, how many fights did you win that day? You won 2?
I won 2 and I lost 1.
Well, that's great for never even training, doing any martial arts or anything.
Good. Yeah. But the why it interested me, so why I was interested so much, it was better in my head, because I don't care what they were. I wasn't going to lose to a guy smaller than me. You know, it was just ego. I wasn't going to lose to a guy smaller than me, but I never fought before. But I was a big tough guy around town, around school, so I couldn't lose to somebody smaller than me and go back home. You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't going to go well. So it was in your head, man. I can't lose to this guy. I can't lose to this guy. I got to beat this guy. I have to beat this guy. And then here's the other thing on top of that. People told me that Paul was racist with Tank, that they're a racist group, right? And they told me to get me angry.
Oh yeah, they
like
lied
the
to
corner to get me angry, and it didn't work. I got scared because it worked for me. I had to react.
You know what? It's crazy that you say that because somebody told me that Tank Abbott was racist, right? And my first time meeting Tank Abbott was in Japan, I think.
Yeah.
And I knew who he was, and I kind of like standoffish because that's the rumor I heard about him. And he talked to me. He said, "Rampage, I love your fighting style." I looked at him like, "Oh, you know who I am?" He said, "Yeah, I like your fighting style. You get right to business. As soon as you fight, you go right there and right over." I'm like, "Oh." Then ever since then, I knew that whoever told me that he was like, I'm from the South. I can feel racist energy when just by the way they talk. And Tank and I know Paul Herrera's not racist at all. So whoever told you, they were smart telling you that.
Yes.
That's a bold-faced lie, though.
Yes, I knew it was a lie. I found out years after.
Oh, yeah.
But we're cool.
Yeah.
Did you have any relationships as friends or training or just knew them of fighters going into UFC? Did you know anybody?
No, not going into that UFC. I didn't know anyone.
No one.
I saw Hoist on TV.
That's it.
That was it.
That is the craziest story.
I didn't know anybody.
I'm really shocked right now because for years I always thought that you were just, ultimate karate sensei, ultimate boxing champion, like just all these pedigrees. Yeah. But to hear that, it's actually pretty inspiring.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
Can you imagine if he was a martial artist or if he even trained for let's say 3 months for that?
Oh my God. You would have steamrolled people. Raw talent, just pure raw talent back then.
The thing about it, here's the thing, what I think. That when you know things, you get more in trouble. You get in trouble more. If you don't know anything, it's easier to teach a guy that don't know nothing than to teach somebody that knows something. Mm-hmm. You ever notice it?
Yeah.
Blank canvas.
Man, all right. Well, just wanted to share this with you. Back in the days when the early UFCs, there was really no rules. They didn't even have time limits. I've seen some of the fights where a dude was socking the other guy in the nuts, you know what I mean? Like straight socking him in the nuts. They obviously had a cup on. Another time, grabbing him in the throat, choking. They didn't have time limits. You could kick, punch on the, kick him on the floor. It was crazy. It was brutal, but it wasn't what it is now. All the fighters were not as trained and technical like they are now. But good for Big Daddy Goodridge, man. I loved watching him fight. If you've never seen Rampage's podcast, make sure you go and subscribe and check him out. He's got some amazing interviews with a lot of fighters and a lot of people in the MMA community. So if you like this content and me reviewing these types of videos, just let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe. Help me grow my channel. If you train Muay Thai, boxing, MMA, or anything, help your coach out. You know what I mean? Because I bring this content for you guys to learn, or you newbies. You know what I mean? Make sure you go to Goodridge's all his social medias, whatever he has. Go buy some of his shirts. Help them out. You know what I mean? Spend a little money. They put a lot out there for us to enjoy the UFC and the MMA and what it is now. So thanks for watching, everybody. Coach Jesse. Until the next one.